So welcome back everybody. Today we're going to get on the mill and we're going to do a little bit of routine maintenance on it. Nothing real major, just some regular stuff like oil change, belt change, fuel filter, air filter, that kind of stuff. I also want to show y'all something that I tore up about 2 weeks ago and I was able to fix relatively cheap. And I hope that this video helps somebody that might be in the market for a sawmill like this one, to show you what maintenance is involved on this machine. It's really not as bad as you might think. These things look like they do a lot and have a lot of moving parts. It's actually a pretty simple machine. So let's get into it and see what we can get done. So we'll go ahead and start off here with just an oil change. They made it pretty easy to change the oil and pretty convenient. They put this drain hose on it, which is really nice. If it didn't have this on it, oil would just end up going everywhere. So we'll start with this and then we'll move on. So I think this is about the second time that I've changed the oil. The first time I changed it was at roughly the 10-hour mark, right after the break-in period. I don't have an hour meter on this thing. I actually bought one, but never got around to putting it on. So I don't know how many hours it has on it. But you know, I know on YouTube it looks like I run this thing just day after day after day. But this is a hobby for me. I do run it a lot, but it's not a full-time thing. So, you know, it's not one of those things that gets run 8 hours a day, 5 or 6 days a week. Probably should have changed the oil one more time before this, but I didn't, so we're doing it now. And I think it's almost finished here. The filter's in a pretty convenient location as well, right to the left of the engine with plenty of room to get to it. I'm hoping I can do it by hand. I was hoping I didn't have to use a tool for that. Oop, better get something to put that in. Let's try that again. Get our fresh filter on there. All right, let's get some oil in it. So we're going to put some 10W30 in it. And of course I didn't bring a funnel. Well, let's check that. Not yet. So there's an expression that I've always heard from my dad. Every time I didn't have a funnel or had to pour something kind of free-handed like this, before I started he would say, well, let's see what kind of moonshiner you are. And, you know, I guess that harkens back to the days of rum running and moonshining, where people poured, the rum runners and the moonshiners would pour moonshine into mason jars. I guess they didn't use funnels. They weren't supposed to spill any and cut into the profits. I really don't know. I've only ever heard that expression from him. Have y'all ever heard that expression? Let's see what kind of a moonshiner you are. Don't spill any. Now we got some on the stick. Let's crank it up and fill the filter up, and then we'll check it again. I'm going to put just a little bit more, not much, just a little dollop, and I think we'll have it. All right, I think that's good. Check out this air filter next. I would venture to say that a sawmill air filter takes more abuse than any other air filter on any other piece of equipment. Maybe with the exception of stuff that works in sand pits and real dusty areas. I have removed this one before, this outside filter before, just to, now let me blow all this out before I do this. So I've taken that outer filter off several times just to, you know, either blow it out or just beat it on the side of my pants or on the side of the sawmill or whatever. But I've never replaced that, that inner element. And like I said, these things probably take just so much abuse, so much dust. And, you know, it's cheap maintenance to replace one of these every now and then. So I knew about this little trick here, but I didn't think it was something that, you know, you still that they still recommended you do on these new filters like this, but I went back and I read the instructions, and oil in this filter is something that they do still recommend. Helps pick up smaller particulates and stuff like that. All right. I want to replace the fuel filter as well, but what I'm going to do first is turn the fuel off from the tank and let it run as much of the fuel out of the line as possible. All right, so it has died out here, and that really helped a lot less than I thought it would. Probably something I'm not quite understanding about it. All right, so let's see if we can get it going again. Quick and easy. So the next thing that we'll do is we'll replace these two belts that the blade runs on. It's kind of an interesting system that Wood Mizer has got. What they do is they've got these cast iron wheels right here, and that's just loose because the blade's not tight, of course. But they've got these cast iron wheels, and in the V of these cast iron wheels, they use these belts, which is kind of an interesting system. And they just come right off, and that's what the blade runs on right there. And it's a pretty simple thing to replace them. You just take a new belt, pop it right in the groove. Oh, I shouldn't have said it was simple. There it went. And you just pop it right in the groove there, and you're done. So I wanted to show you all the difference in the two wheels here. This is one that I have not replaced yet, and you can kind of see how that belt has kind of taken the form of the wheel, and it's kind of starting to flatten out a lot on the top, and it's looking kind of ragged also. Compare that to this other one. So here's the new one that we just put on. You can see that is, I'm sure it'll seat down in there to some extent, but you can kind of see how worn that old one was. Let you see these belts side by side, new one and the old one. So like I mentioned, this is kind of an interesting system. I think Cook's uses just solid cast iron wheels, and I can definitely see the advantage of solid cast iron wheels. You know, I think you get a ton of longevity. I feel like the whole machine would wear out before those wore out. And one of their claims is that they're super well balanced and so on and so forth. And I'm sure that they are. I really see a lot of advantages to that a full solid cast iron wheel. But you know, this is pretty simple right here. If something messes up, I mean, all you got to do, you don't have to replace the whole wheel. If you have some kind of damage, you just replace that belt. And you know, it's a pretty cheap fix. I think these belts were 13 or 14 bucks a piece, so I can certainly see the advantage in both systems, really. Here's the drive belt here, and we're not going to be replacing this today. And now that I actually look at it, I possibly should have. We're getting some cracking right in there, but I think it's still got a lot of life left in it. So we're not going to be replacing that today. But if I ever do need to replace it, or when I need to replace it, it looks like a relatively simple thing to do here. At least I'm hoping. Let me know if it's not. If anybody has done it, let me know how difficult it is to replace this belt. So this is the rope that the power feed uses to pull the saw carriage up and down the length of the bed. And I had originally planned to replace this, but I'm not going to because it's just not worn to a point where it needs to be replaced. You can see it is worn. I'm sure that that saw carriage has been up and down this bed thousands of times, but I mean, you can see it's just really not worn enough to warrant replacing. I do have an extra one, so whenever I need it, I'll have it. I think it cost less than $1. I think it was like 79 cents for the whole length of rope. Not a very expensive thing to replace, and it's a pretty simple matter to replace it as well. So this is one of the great things about this mill. It's just simple. I mean, this simple rope is what the power feed uses to pull the saw carriage up and down the bed, and it just works really, really well. So yeah, we're not going to bother with that today. There's just really no need to replace it. So I mentioned earlier that I tore up something on this mill a couple weeks ago, and I wanted to show y'all. Here's what had happened was I put this water jug on the box blade or the ballast on my tractor, and I trucked it up to my friend's house here to get some water. I'm sawing off-site, I'm not at my house. And I got some water in it, and I put it back on the box blade on the way back, and it fell and got jammed between the tire and the box blade, and it cracked this. If you look close, you can see the damage, and you can also see that this is not at the angle that it once was at, and of course it cracked all this in here as well. But what I did was I just took some JB weld, and I was able to fill in that crack back there, and it doesn't leak. Of course, the day that I did it, it was leaking, you know, totally unusable. It was leaking so bad, and I was able to take this home and fix it, and it works fine. However, that did give me a good excuse to get a brand new setup here. So I do have a brand new jug, and what I'll be able to do now is bring 10 gallons of water and dish soap at a time rather than just having this one. So that's a good thing. I probably should have showed y'all this part right after I put these new belts on the wheels. We'll go ahead and put a blade on it. Put a brand new, well, that's actually not a brand new blade, but it's a sharp blade. It doesn't need to be replaced. And we'll engage the blade and make sure it's still running right after putting those new belts on there. Oh, it is a little tighter. I'm gonna have to loosen it some. I bet there's a break-in period on these belts. I'll have to keep checking the tension on this blade as I go along. I think it's okay. Let's check the tension and engage it and see what happens. The blade tensioning system on this is very, very simple. It's just this right here. You turn this to tighten it, and then when you lock the blade down, you make sure that the head of this bolt right here lines up with the silver part of that washer right there, and if it is, you're at the proper tension. All right, I think we're good. So we'll go ahead and put some fuel in it as well. When I leave this machine, I usually put a tarp over it, but unfortunately sometimes that tarp blows off or blows around so that the fuel cap is sticking out here. Of course at home it's under a shed, but here it's not, so I try to do the best I can to protect it. So what I like to do is, if there's a chance that it has water in the tank, if this has leaked around the seal and the water has gotten in, I like to put this stuff in it. It's ISO heat, and basically it's just a water remover, fuel line antifreeze, so on and so forth. I mean, it's really just some kind of alcohol. I think what it does, it just kind of gels with the water in the tank and allows that water to burn with the alcohol, and it's able to pass through the engine and you're good. I've had success with that stuff in other equipment. I think I did it in my four-wheeler and it was able to clear it up pretty well. Probably in the old Wood Mizer as well, I can't remember. But that's just some cheap insurance. And of course I always use ethanol-free fuel in it as well. All right. So one more thing before we're done with this video, I wanted to show y'all this. This is, well, I get a lot of comments in the comment section sometimes of people saying, man, that thing is just piling dust right at your feet. That's kind of a weird design they've got going on there. And they're kind of right. I only have this much space to walk when this thing is dumping sawdust right here. It doesn't give me a lot of space to walk, and I end up having to shovel it off to the side just to get, you know, a little more convenient spot to work with here. But I saw another YouTube channel, and the name of the channel is Chaos Farm. I'll put a link in the description down here. And in one of his videos, he had taken the guard completely off and it was spraying sawdust horizontally. So what I did here was I just took the guard off and I flipped it upside down, and that allows the sawdust to spray farther, and it deflects the sawdust down, so it gives me a much wider walking path here. So a lot more convenient, and I'll probably have to flip it back over when this thing gets back in the mill shed at home, because I don't think it'll work well with the wall of the shed. Also, I wanted to mention this real quick. Atchaforce, the people that sent me the chainsaw that we reviewed and gave one away a couple of weeks ago, they have also sent me a blower, and I have used this in my shop some. I have not used it much at the mill. This is the first time I've used it at the mill actually, but this is a really nice blower. And they offered to put me in their commission program so that I could make money off of this, but it was really better and easier for me for them to just send me some more tools, and I was happy just to show them on the channel. And you can have this for 85 bucks from their website, and the Fall Line Ridge, if you type in Fall Line Ridge as a coupon code, they'll give you 15% off. So what are you looking at, like 70 some odd dollars? And that's the battery charger, blower, and everything. And so far I've been really impressed with this blower. It's very convenient, obviously real easy to use, lots of power. And I mean, for 80 bucks, I mean, you can't hardly complain. So check that out. I'll put a link down here there in the comments for that. And I hope that this video helps somebody. If y'all are interested in buying one of these mills, you can see that it's a pretty simple and easy machine to maintain. There's not a whole lot that goes into it, and if you maintain it well, it'll last a really long time. It's a pretty well put together piece of equipment. But that's going to do it for this video. Thank y'all for watching, and I will see y'all next time.